Welcome back to Build Breakdown. First of all, I apologize if you can hear the CNC. I can only pause it. I can actually turn it off. So if you can hear that in the background, I need to have that running right now. So I apologize. Today we're creating something, I say that every time. We're creating something pretty cool. I like all this stuff, so I think it's pretty cool. This is the plate that goes on the middle of the transmission. It's a cover plate for the H pattern, where I think on the non-all-wheel drive transmission, that's where your actual shifter goes. I don't actually know that to be true, but this is a cover for it. The shifter is gonna be so far back that I won't actually be able to reach it. It'll be like behind me. So we're gonna take this plate, which is about 8 or 9 inches in front of the shifter, and make a new base plate and make our own little shifter, and then we'll just attach some linkages back to the regular shifter, which goes through the transfer case. That's why it's so far back. So I need to take this, do all the holes like we did for like the transmission stuff, and then build, it'll have some like brackets, not brackets, but like just like an extra like little hoop of metal. There's square, I might square it off, I might round it off, whatever, and then a hole through it so it can hold our shifter. And then from scratch, I'll need to build the shifter, so I'll just have to think of that one. And then we also, with all this, we're gonna have to modify the shifter back there to accept the way, I'll explain this real quick, the way that you attach the two shifters. So I'll have my shifter handle, and then behind it would be the stock shifter handle, sorry. We're going to basically cut part of it off and then just take some steel and make a new flat bracket for it, because right now I'll show you. So this is the area where my shifter is gonna go, because that's just a little H pattern gate. So what we're gonna have to do, because this is bent from the factory, I think that's from factory. Maybe that's wrong, but from other pictures I've seen, some of them are bent, but whatever. We're basically gonna cut it right here, and then we're gonna just take some pieces of steel and make like a square or like a rectangle, and then put a hole through it. We will then weld that square or rectangle, whatever it ends up being, to the circular part. And then we'll have basically tie rod linkages, so like 2 heim joints with a turnbuckle in between, connecting both of them. And then in the model for my shifter handle that I'll actually be shifting with, I'll add a spot for a bolt to go through as well. So that's how the two get linked together. Now, I actually didn't really understand this to begin with, because you would think, oh, you're using heim joints. And so when you go to push your shifter that way, the heim joint would just account for it and take up that load. Apparently, when you use 2 of them, they don't do that. You might have to like link them together, so we might have to make another like tab, like just a rectangle of steel, and weld the 2 linkages together. So I'm still curious of how that works, because when a heim joint is supposed to turn, but again, the way it turns, the way you're pushing it wouldn't really take up that kind of slack. So it's really weird. I've seen it done before, and it doesn't look like there's anything, they're not using any special crazy heim joints like that. They're just standard heim joints for what I've seen. So we have parts on the way, and I need to start modeling this. Those parts aren't gonna get here for a while. So obviously, same video for you guys, like always. So I'm gonna start modeling so that hopefully tonight and into tomorrow, the next couple of days, we will get those 3D prints done, and we can bolt them on and make sure they work. And then a couple days after that, the heim joints will come in, and a couple days after that, you guys will see this video. I'm gonna get started modeling, and we'll just come back and we'll make some progress. Okay, before we go 3D printing, I want to show you guys the models real quick. So first, made this from scratch. We have the shifter handle. So it's just it'll be a bar of aluminum for now to be 3D printed. These triangles serve no purpose other than looks, just to make it not look like just a aluminum bar. And then I think this is gonna be the bottom, and I'll just, whenever it comes out, I'll just drill and tap a hole. I won't have to tap it because it's plastic, so I can just screw the heim joint in and the threads will make their own threads. I just thought about, I need to get rid of one of those triangles and add the hole for the shifter linkage. So I need to figure out where to put that. And then on the top side, we'll just keep it like that for now, but eventually I'll have a handle, and whatever handle I make, I'll just model out this bar in the middle of it, and it'll just slip fit on. And then we'll just put some epoxy in there. So that's that. And then for our shifter plate, so you guys can see, it looks pretty similar. And then these are the tabs I was talking about earlier. So the heim joint will just go in the middle, and then a bolt will go through, and then we'll have our shifter on top. But yeah, I'm gonna start 3D printing, and then we have that stuff coming in, and we'll be able to test, and then after that, get the metal and move to metal. So I got the models done, and this one is perfect, minus the 2 tabs. I'll explain that in a minute. And then this needs some revisions. I'll show you in a second. So first problem with this one is when you go to set it on the thing, this is how it sits. And it's actually angled a little bit when it sits on there. And these just don't quite, I need to just angle them and move them over a little bit to line up directly with the stock shifter. But that's just a couple measurements, change the model, redo it. Second thing is, even with those being the wrong angle, so this is basically what we're gonna use on the bottom of the handle. So it'll sit under here like that, and then it'll go back and forth, and since it's a heim joint, it can go side to side. That's how we get the, you know, first and second, all that. It fits in between there just fine, and actually the hole actually is lined up, but it's rubbing on the bottom here, so we need to move it up. Even if we moved it up a couple millimeters, that would solve that issue. The only other thing that I just realized after putting this in here was when you have it in here and you go side to side, you only get, can you even see how much, that's how much it can move. We realistically need it to be like kind of far over. So the plan is, and luckily this is actually the bolt or the heim joint that's gonna go on here. So the plan for the handle is to have both of these like this, and then over here will be the stock shifter. So these already have, all of these already have a use. But for this piece, we can actually, we'll have to obviously move them over, angle them a little bit different. We can actually widen them, and I can buy a special heim joint that already has built in those offset pieces that I've shown you on some of the control arm stuff, where it spaces it up, and then it allows you to articulate a little bit more because of the way it has this curve to it. It has those built in, which already gives it a really high angle of offset. And since it'll space it out, it'll give us more room in between these brackets where it actually has room to go over without hitting the casing of the heim joint. So a couple of corrections there, but nothing crazy. It's all just modeling stuff. And then I forgot to order the heim joint for that, which is actually pretty fine because I was just gonna order another one of these, but now we know we need one with the offset pieces. Now for the handle, the only thing that I think is gonna need to change, it needs to be thicker because we're gonna use the threads for the heim joint are gonna be 1/2 inch. That's what I'm using on all of this. It could be total overkill, but you know, when you're shifting, there's a decent amount of force there. When you're like really slamming gears, I just wanna make sure none of this stuff is gonna break. And the cost difference between a 1/2 inch, and then, you know, if you went to like down to like 7/16 or even farther down to like 3/8, the cost difference is not that much. We're talking in each of these parts a couple dollars. So for this whole set, if I were to buy it in 7/16, I'd save maybe $10. So I'd much rather have the beefier stuff and just know nothing is gonna break. So for that, the handle, I made it, I think it's like 15 or 16 millimeters thick. Well, 1/2 inch is 12.7 millimeters, 12.9 millimeters, I think. Is a 1/2 inch? No, I think it's 12.7. Well, when you take like 16 minus 12.7, you end up with a really small number, and I tried to drill a hole in the bottom, and there's just not enough material there. Granted, 3D printed parts don't like being drilled, but even on the metal version, we're gonna have a tough time with it. So the only thing with this is all this works, it just needs to be made thicker or width-wise, and I'll probably just scale the whole thing up and make it just bigger in all the directions, except maybe height. I think height is good. Other than that, I like the handle. We just need to make an actual handle for it that'll slip over. So we'll figure something for that out later. For now, you can just grabbing that is not actually that bad of a grip. And just to show you guys the angle right here, honestly, it might not even need to be moved over. Just fixing the angle would probably help it, but when you fix the angle, I'm afraid it's gonna be a little too far that way, so we might have to go that way. All stuff I'm gonna measure for and fix and probably go through a couple more trials with. And then we can move to metal. But the good thing is we know, once I fix the height issue, we'll know roughly the X, Y, and Z dimensions, so we can go ahead and get a piece of metal ordered. And we can get a piece of metal ordered for this, because it was just shy of knowing the dimensions for this stuff when I ordered some of the last suspension components or the blocks for the suspension. So they didn't quite make it into that order. So we need to get those on order with that other Heim joint. That's all I got for this video. Just still working away at all this stuff. Just design after design and 3D print after 3D print. We'll get that stuff on order. We'll get the stuff made out of metal, and there'll probably just be a random update in some other video where I go, hey, we finished the shifter. So might not be a dedicated video, but I like showing the design so something doesn't just completely show up out of random and you're like, how did you do that? And like every other part of this build, this is something I've never done before. So having to just like design this stuff from scratch off of like a picture you see on Instagram is challenging and pretty cool. So that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one.